For almost a century, the Walt Disney Company was the standard-bearer of wholesome family entertainment, from the early days of their animated projects, such as Steamboat Willie, to their family-oriented television series, such as The Mickey Mouse Club and The Wonderful World of Disney, which featured great wholesome family films. Such classics as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Fantasia, Bambi, and Old Yeller created an enormous entertainment icon, acknowledged worldwide. Even the Europeans in the 1930s were enamored with Walt Disney's work. But in the last few years, Disney took a massive financial hit when it decided to get political and join the woke movement. Millions of Americans, and even others overseas, canceled subscriptions and terminated their vacations to Disneyland and Disney World in protest. So what changed? There have also been many erroneous rumors, conjecture, and falsehoods leveled at the company's founder, Walt Disney. So let's set the record straight. Who was Walt Disney? How did he create one of the most successful entertainment companies in history? What impact did he have on history? How influential was he? Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History. Walter Elias Disney was born on December 5, 1901 in Chicago, Illinois, and his parents were of German, English, and Irish descent. While Walt and his older brother Roy, born June 24, 1893, were young, the family moved to Marceline, Missouri, then to Kansas City, Missouri, and then back again to Chicago. Walt Disney loved art and studied at the Kansas City Institute and later Chicago Art Institute, and was the cartoonist for the school magazine. When the USA entered the First World War, he dropped out of high school and tried to enlist in the Army. Being rejected for being underage, he joined the Red Cross as a civilian volunteer and was sent to France in late 1918 as an ambulance driver. The carnage he saw affected him. In 1917, Roy enlisted in the U.S. Navy, but was discharged 2 years later when he was diagnosed with tuberculosis. Afterward, Walt moved to Kansas City in 1919, working several jobs until he was hired in the film industry, working for the Kansas City Film Ad Company in the new field of animation. Walt, being a cartoonist, had found the perfect place as a commercial illustrator at the age of 18. Walt and Roy both moved to California in the early 1920s, establishing the Disney Brothers studio, hoping to get in on the new film industry. Walt believed that cell animation was the future of animation, as opposed to the commonly used cutout method, but he met a lot of resistance. Disney Brothers decided to open a new business with a co-worker from the film ad company, Fred Harmon. Their only regular client was the local Newman Theater, which played their short cartoons called Newman's Laugh-O-Grams, which were modern versions of Aesop's fables, as a model, but they did not meet with success and they eventually went bankrupt. Walt and Roy still believed in their formula and created a new film called The Alice Comedies, based on the adventures of Alice in Wonderland, and they tried to find a distributor to get it into theaters. Nothing was working out until New York film distributor Margaret J. Winkler contacted them. She was losing the rights to 2 cartoon projects, Out of the Inkwell and Felix the Cat, and she wanted a new animated series. A contract was signed for 6 Alice comedies, with an option for 2 further series of 6 episodes each. Margaret Winkler's distribution of the Alice series was taken over by her husband, the film producer Charles Mintz, in 1926, and the series ran until July 1927. But the Disney Brothers decided to move away from the mixed format to all animation. Mintz wanted new material for distribution through Universal Pictures, so Walt Disney and Ub Iwerks created Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, a character Disney wanted to be peppy, alert, saucy, and venturesome, keeping him also neat and trim. But Universal Pictures controlled the rights to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and the brothers saw no profit, so Walt rejected a new offer from Universal, deciding that he and Roy were better off working for themselves. Walt wanted to create a new character unique that could become the Disney trademark, so Walt and Ub Iwerks created Mickey Mouse. Iwerks drew Mickey Mouse and Walt gave it the voice. This would be launched by the iconic short cartoon Steamboat Willie, followed by Donald Duck and other legendary figures. In 1932, Walt received his first Academy Award for the Best Short Subject, Cartoons for the Three-Colored Flowers and Trees, and he also received a special Academy Award for Mickey Mouse. In 1933, the brothers created their successful short cartoon, the most successful of all time, The Three Little Pigs, in 1933, which had the famous song, Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf?
Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? Big bad wolf.
Snow White came out in December 1937 to high praise from critics and audiences, and it was the most successful film of 1938, and by 1939 its total gross of $6.5 million made it the most successful sound film made to that date. They were so popular, propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels gave Hitler 12 reels of Disney films for Christmas in 1937. According to film director, actress, and producer Leni Riefenstahl, Hitler loved the Disney material. Most people do not know that his favorite animated film was Snow White, and he kept a personal reel which he viewed on occasion. Even Joseph Stalin was a fan of the Disney products, along with Benito Mussolini. As the storm clouds gathered over Europe, the entertainment industry was not immune. Partisan lines were being drawn. Famed aviator Charles Lindbergh was an open isolationist, not wanting American involvement in any foreign wars, and Walt Disney felt the same way. After the world learned of the November 1938 riots in Germany and Austria known as Kristallnacht, public opinion was divided, but Walt Disney paid no attention to it. In fact, he had previously sent an invitation to the German filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl, whose black and white film noir propaganda films, such as Triumph of the Will in 1935 and Olympia in 1936, covering the Berlin Olympics, were considered groundbreaking cinematography. Walt Disney and Frank Capra both were enamored with her style. Leni arrived in December, and her visit to Walt Disney Studios stirred some controversy at the time, but even more in later years. Animation historian Jim Korkis believes that Disney also met with Riefenstahl for financial reasons, as an attempt by Disney to recover 135,000 Reichsmarks owed from his German film distributor and to get the ban on Disney films lifted in Germany. At that time, orchestra conductor Leopold Stokowski was writing the score for the soon-to-be classic Fantasia and had several mutual friends along with Riefenstahl. As a result, Disney was then and ever since accused of anti-Semitism as well as racial bigotry due to his film Song of the South, none of which was true. In January 1939, a spokesman for Disney told the New York Daily News, and I quote, Miss Riefenstahl got into the studio, but she crashed the gate. A Los Angeles man who is known to Disney obtained permission to take a party through the plant. Leni was in the party. If we had known it in advance, she wouldn't have got in. This statement was only made after an uproar from the local Jewish community, which heavily controlled the film and entertainment industry, most of which were direct competitors of the Disney Company. In fact, Disney hired many Jewish illustrators, and Walt himself was well known to be apolitical, never having a racist idea, thought, or statement. Pinocchio and Fantasia were both released in 1940, but neither did very well at the box office, partly because revenues from Europe had dropped following the start of World War II in 1939. The studio incurred a loss on both pictures and was deeply in debt by the end of February 1941. In late 1940, Walt and Roy decided to offer stock in the company and take it public to increase revenue. Other measures included salary cuts to staff and reduced hiring, which resulted in the animators' strike, which lasted 5 weeks. Then the U.S. government approached Walt Disney in early 1941, seeing that war was probably inevitable. Walt Disney had a meeting with Henry Morgenthau Jr., the Secretary of the Treasury, and agreed to produce short Donald Duck cartoons to promote war bonds after the U.S. entered the war. This saw the creation of the Walt Disney Training Films Unit, producing instruction films for the military such as 4 methods of flush riveting and aircraft production methods. Disney also produced several propaganda productions, including shorts such as Der Führer's Face, which won an Academy Award, as well as the 1943 feature film Victory Through Air Power. Disney also made propaganda films against the Nazis for both the public as well as educational and training films for the United States government. Disney offered to produce films for the armed forces to make training films for national defense industries at cost and without profit. The military films only covered the company's costs, and the film Bambi did poorly after its release in 1942 and lost $200,000 at the box office. Including the lackluster performance of Pinocchio and Fantasia, the Disney company had debts of $4 million with the Bank of America in 1944. Disney slowed down producing short films and cartoons due to the rise of Warner Brothers and Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. That was when Roy Disney suggested more combined animation and live-action productions to increase revenue, also to challenge the competition. In 1948, Disney launched live-action nature films titled True Life Adventures, with Seal Island being the first winning the Academy Award in the Best Short Subject category. It was during this time that Walt Disney left the Democrat Party and became a Republican. The reasons were apparently the fact that he disagreed with the Jim Crow laws prevalent in many states and the segregated theaters. His change of affiliation was probably also due to the accusations of anti-Semitism and racial bigotry launched by his competitors. The feature film Song of the South was criticized by contemporary film critics, the NAACP, and others for its perpetuation of black stereotypes, but during filming, Disney became close friends with its black star, James Baskett. When Blaskett fell ill, Walt took care of his family until he died. Before Blaskett's death, Disney nominated him for an honorary Academy Award for his performance, making Blaskett the first black actor so honored. His widow wrote Disney a letter of gratitude for his support, claiming, "He had been a friend indeed, and we certainly have been in need." Floyd Norman, the studio's first black animator during the 1950s and 1960s, said, "Not once did I observe a hint of racist behavior. Walt Disney was often accused of this after his death. His treatment of people, and by this I mean all people, can only be called exemplary." Walt Disney's biographer Neil Gabler stated, "And though Walt himself, in my estimation, was not anti-Semitic, nevertheless, he willingly allied himself with people who were anti-Semitic, and that reputation stuck. He was never really able to expunge it throughout his life." In 1946, Walt was a founding member of the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals, promoting wholesome family and pro-American entertainment. In fact, Disney testified before the House Un-American Activities Committee during the communist witch hunts sponsored by Republicans. In 1947, he attended where he branded Herbert Sorrell, David Hilberman, and William Pomerantz, former animators and labor union organizers, as communist agitators. Disney stated that the 1941 strike led by them was part of an organized communist effort to gain influence in Hollywood. In 1950, Cinderella premiered at a cost of $2.2 million, making $8 million the first year after its release, and being very popular, and along with Snow White, have been the best animated moneymakers in history. Disney's venture into films paid off with Treasure Island in 1950 and The Story of Robin Hood and His Merry Men, followed by the animated films Alice in Wonderland in 1951 and Peter Pan in 1953, with both doing quite well. Walt Disney Productions also began expanding into more popular action films. Following Treasure Island, they released 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in 1954 from the Jules Verne novel, followed by the equally successful Pollyanna in 1960. But in the early 1940s, Disney began planning for a theme park which he called Disneyland, which would be built in Anaheim, California, which opened in 1955, and it was an immediate success, and only the first month, Disneyland received over 20,000 visitors a day, and by the end of its first year, it attracted 3.6 million guests. This also opened the door for Disney to create the very successful 5-part miniseries Davy Crockett, and the theme song, The Ballad of Davy Crockett, topped the charts.
Greenest state in the land of the free.
That was when Disney started his own record label called Disneyland Records. One of the series Disney produced was Man in Space, made in collaboration with NASA rocket designer Wernher von Braun, who created the Redstone, Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo programs. Disney stayed busy breaking new ground by releasing full-length feature films such as Lady and the Tramp in 1955, which was the first animated film in CinemaScope, and Sleeping Beauty, the first animated film in Technorama 70mm film in 1959, followed by 101 Dalmatians, the first animated feature to use Xerox cells in 1961, followed by The Sword in the Stone in 1963. Disney had a major home run in 1964 with the musical Mary Poppins, based on the book series by P.L. Travers. After acquiring the rights to the story since the 1940s, it was the most successful and profitable Disney film during the 1960s. In late 1965, Walt Disney announced plans to develop another theme park to be called Disney World, now called Walt Disney World, near Orlando, Florida, and it would include what he called the Magic Kingdom. This was an ambitious project, far larger and covering more amenities than Disneyland, to include more rides, golf courses, and resort hotels. The centerpiece of the proposed Disney World was to be the experimental prototype community of tomorrow, now called Epcot Center. He wanted to incorporate all the things he loved as a child, which he knew children also loved, and this was marketable. His business strategy was spot on, and the series, The Mickey Mouse Club, proved it. Walt Disney did have his own philosophy regarding religious faith. As he stated, "I believe firmly in the efficacy of religion and its powerful influence on a person's whole life. It helps immeasurably to meet the storms and stress of life and keep you attuned to divine inspiration. Without inspiration, we would perish." The 1960s was also an explosive success with The Wonderful World of Disney, which televised all of the classic films and animations from Disney's past, where advertisers fought each other to get airtime during the programs. The money rolled in. Walt had been a chain smoker all of his life, and his health rapidly deteriorated by the 1960s. Walt Disney died from complications of lung cancer on December 15, 1966, in Burbank, California. During his lifetime, he received a record 59 nominations for the Academy Award, winning 22 awards. Perhaps the most long-standing myth was that Walt Disney had his body cryonically frozen, hoping to be revived when a cure was found, but this is untrue. He was actually cremated, but that rumor may have been spread by his employees looking for one last joke at the expense of their boss. After Walt Disney died, Roy took over the Disney Company, but the company missed the direction and genius of Walt Disney, and Roy died of a cerebral hemorrhage on December 20th, 1971. The 1970s were not very profitable for the film company, with the theme parks being the only real revenue stream. But in the 1980s, Disney made a comeback and began producing a new generation of films, such as Tron in 1982, Who Framed Roger Rabbit in 1988, and The Lion King in 1994, followed by many other films, such as Pearl Harbor in 2001. These successes were followed by Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl in 2003, starting that series, and the resurrected Alice in Wonderland in 2010. But Disney also had some bombs, such as The Lone Ranger in 2013. Disney also started a cruise line in 1995 that catered to the family, which was doing well. But in 2024, CEO Bob Iger revealed at an investor conference that the company's streaming service that launched in 2019 was operating at a $4 billion loss, and the rest of the company was in trouble as a result. Stock in the company was no longer viable and shares plummeted in value. This occurred when the company openly supported Democrat woke ideals, abandoning the traditional family values the company was built upon, and millions of Americans walked away from the one entertainment institution that seemed unshakable. Florida had previously passed a law that created the Reedy Creek Improvement District, effectively giving the Walt Disney Company governmental control over the land in and around its Central Florida theme parks. In essence, it was self-autonomy. Disney also lost its independent governance and taxation rights due to their attacking Governor Ron DeSantis, who opposed certain curricula being taught in public schools. But a deal was struck which benefited Florida and limited Disney's control. In effect, Disney shot itself in the foot and failed to maintain faith with their core audience, conservative, traditional-minded Americans. I do not think Walt Disney would have approved, and will Disney ever recover? Time will tell. Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History. If you liked what you saw, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to assist with the ever-increasing cost of production, please consider becoming a channel member and joining our Patreon page. Please check out our merchandise store. And thanks for watching.